All right, we rocking and rolling. It's bright and early. It's Monday. And that means it's more of chopping it up with Cador. I'm Perry White. He's Roger Cador. We getting it going bright and early this morning. Hey, guess what? If you did get the notification, that means you subscribe. But for those of you that are watching and you didn't get the notification, hit that subscribe button right there, baby, to get it anytime we go live, or be able to just go back and check out any of the previous shows. Good morning, Coach. How you feeling today?
I'm doing good, Mr. White.
Are you? You're in like a rare mode today. I don't know.
Today's a better day than yesterday.
I like to hear that. And you talking about yesterday, speaking of the weekend, you were down in New Orleans for the Andre Dawson Classic, a classic played at Wesley-Boro Stadium down in New Orleans, and brought together HBCU teams from around the South, gave them an opportunity to go out and play. Talk to me about the Andre Dawson Classic and what you saw down there.
Well, the good thing is that I saw a good brand of baseball, and teams were playing well, making good plays. And what I look for when I look for college games is I try to see, are they playing with a lot of energy? Then are they making basic routine plays? And are the pitchers able to throw enough strikes? Those are the things basically, are key for teams being able to be successful. And I saw a lot of that, especially early or over the weekend. So now, as they go down the road, they want to try and improve on some of the things they didn't do well, like getting better pitches to hit with runners in scoring position. That was the one area I saw that most of the team liked in the discipline to be able to let the pitcher make the mistake, throw a pitch in the zone with runners in scoring position, particularly with less than 2 outs. I saw a ton of time that they failed at that. But again, it's early in the season, second week playing, so there are a lot of time to improve and do better in that area.
Behind the scenes with the Andre Dawson Classic, I know you were influential early on in this exception to get this thing going. What's behind the scenes like as you had your opportunity to network and talk to a lot of people who were brought in to work with this classic?
Well, this thing has grown expeditiously since I got involved in it in about 2006, 2007, and got it moving. We've been able to grow it in terms of more teams are able to participate, have the experience in being in this classic. The other thing is that Major League Baseball has bought into this thing, and they are going to do more that benefits the HBCUs. Like this summer, we're going to have the All-Star game, the top 50 players from the 17 Division I in the schools in the HBCUs. They're going to pick the top 50 players and take them to Seattle, Washington during All-Star Week and get to play a game in Seattle on Seattle's field. So that's huge. That's really a tremendous improvement from where we started, where we were playing them basically at the Urban League fields. So now we're talking about big time, and they're talking about done in the future as things keep getting better. Maybe MLB can petition the NCAA to allow them to do more in terms of scholarship, facility, equipment, something that would help the HBCUs.
As you talk about this relationship between MLB and HBCUs, we see the All-Star game. You see HBCUs particularly having these classics at the stadiums like last week over in Houston playing at Minute Maid Park, then going down this week in Wesley-Boro down in New Orleans. Does MLB have this relationship with a lot of college programs, or in particular, is this something a direct pipeline specifically for HBCUs?
This is specifically for HBCUs. Now, University of New Orleans capitalized in it because they get to participate as one in the team because they're in New Orleans, and it's really a payback for when Ron Maestreet who used to coach at UNO.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was in the city in the government capacity, and he was able to help MLB find some funding to help with the Urban Youth Academy and to help grow the thing. So UNO is benefiting from his relationship with MLB. So that's the reason. But this thing is strictly for HBCUs, and particularly for the ones in the SWAC. I mean, those are the schools that really get the SWAC schools are only one. We don't have any school from the East Coast, MEAC, ever get to participate in this event. And I think, I don't know when we started it, if it was meant to be that way, but I think they recognize the best baseball played at HBCUs are happening in the SWAC.
Mm-hmm. And I was curious to want to know that because, I didn't know how broad their relationship was in the spectrum of college baseball, but it seems like more specifically the HBCUs are getting a lot of love, and I know you're being a big component of making that happen and sitting at the table and opening people's eyes to the importance. Why is HBCU baseball so important in terms of its history of where it was to where it is today?
Well, let me just say something. Major League Baseball people are smart, okay? Let me tell you what. They need to make HBC colleges viable because it creates visibility. And for HBC, for MLB to get the really talented African-American kid at a young age, they have to see the game being played by people who look like them. You got me? And that's why HBCUs have to survive and thrive. Because the younger kids, they're going to have younger brothers, cousins, neighborhood people. They need to see them playing so they could play. Because when I served on the commissioner advisory board, the one thing was to make sure people understood. This was not to turn around what had been missing since the 70s to the 200, 2000, we lost so many of the great black athletes. And it wasn't going to happen overnight to get the next generation and the next. It's a 30-year plan. They understood that. You got me? And that's why I've said to people in private that baseball is going to expand worldwide in 30 years when they're able to get these brothers who are really good athletes away from football and possibly basketball, playing baseball. This is why Major League Baseball is investing millions of dollars, because you have to showcase your product. And in order to get people who look like me, you have to have people look like them playing it on every level. And I think that's why it's viable that we have HBCUs. Not that they're going to produce the players, but they can influence the generation of players who are below them.
You've gone through a lot of eras of SWAC baseball, not only as a player, but as a coach. Is there any particular era that you can recall, I guess, of the new era that you said the talent in the SWAC is far greater than it's ever been? Is there a particular era that you thought when you looked around overall, you just said this thing is talented, better than it's ever been before?
No, I don't think the talent in the SWAC is greater than it ever been. I think you're wrong.
No, I'm asking what era have you? Yeah, okay. I'm asking you an era because you've been through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is the best it's ever been.
Let's make sure we get that straight.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking what era have you seen since you've been around so long as a player and a coach, particularly in the SWAC? And a lot of people don't get to see it from both spectrums for 40 plus years. But when did it seem to be the most talented for you when you looked around the conference and said, man, we loaded?
Well, when I played in the 70s, we were loaded. We had great players. And I know the 60s and the 50s even have even more great players because they weren't getting no chance nowhere else other than college. Now, granted, in the 50s, a lot of talented black players didn't go to college. But in the 60s, they started going. And then in the 70s, we really, really had it going because we had a lot of great, great players. And they had nowhere else to go other than a historical black school. And every team, every school had really good players. So the 70s were as good as it can get. I think the 80s took a little down. The 90s came back up a little. And then in the beginning of the 2000s, we were really decent in the SWAC. But not every team. But so I saw it begin. After Ricky Weeks left in 2003, I began to see a shift in less and less talented players coming into the SWAC.
Is that when you think you start to see the change of kids not being interested in baseball, or these young black males now going other places, getting other opportunities when you look at the spectrum of college?
I think other opportunities presented itself. I really thought that with Ricky Weeks winning the Golden Spikes Award at Southern, that it would really help more young black African Americans come to HBCU. But it looked like it went in the opposite direction. I mean, it went crazy.
Really?
Because then I couldn't even literally talk to a kid to get a good talented kid to come to Southern. They had nothing to do with me. And I think that's when travel ball was really kicking in. And what happened? Travel ball was taking them to SEC cities, and they played in the parks in the summertime. And for some reason, they and the parents thought that the spark was going to make their kids better ball players. You'll be surprised how people think, oh, if I play in this park, I'm going to be better. And that was a misconception. And or that coach was better than what we were doing. I mean, I had a proven track record that to be honest with you, our track record was much better because we developed kids. We took kids that was nobody wanted, and we helped develop them. And we had a really good track record. Did we had all of the fancy stuff? Had none of that. But I knew how to develop kids. Having played pro ball, I used some of the same techniques I learned when I was playing professional. Just bring them and put them into develop something that our kids could get better at. And I didn't do a lot of fancy stuff, but what I asked them to do was going to make them better, and it did. But to get back to your question, it's a really difficult question to answer about all of the things. But I know we lost kids after 2003. It was very difficult to get them.
That made it tougher for you when you talk about recruiting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew then we had to go and get more Latin kids and then white kids because you couldn't get the talented black kid.
I guess as I looked at that, that's an interesting perspective because you would think when you have a phenom like Ricky Weeks at a place like Southern, and as you said, a lot of people choose the ballpark because I heard you say at a speech one time you never saw a facility make a player, right? Yeah. And I guess for me, I thought that would have opened the eyes. And I've always tell people, even when you look at on the football side, a lot of young men want to go because they looking for the glitz and the glamour, the big facilities and all of this. But these day and age, because of the camera, the phone, the internet, it doesn't matter where you go. You could be seen whether it's NAIA, Division II, Division III, Division I. It does not matter. You could be seen. Do you think things could have been a little bit different had Ricky won the Golden Spikes Award in the age of social media, where that could have been marketed a lot better and maybe a story told behind it?
If he was at the right school where they really do marketing. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
We don't do it that well at Southern right now. I think we missing the boat on it. And what Dion did at Jackson State, and I'm looking at some other people. You gotta market, and we did little to market Ricky. Fortunately, Ricky had me, and then I called the people.
Mm-hmm.
I called the people who made the difference. I got to know them. See, I couldn't depend on my people to do it because they were not equipped to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the most difficult thing is to ask people to do something that they've never done before.
Yeah.
I understood that. Why ask them to do it? They've never done it before. They don't think it's important. But I knew it was important. So every morning I was in that office making the calls, talking to the people who matter, talking to the voters. It was like I was campaigning.
And that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. You got to talk to the people who vote. You see? So it wasn't just sending something in the mail. They were hearing a voice, and the voice was telling them things that maybe the paper wasn't going to say.
Mm-hmm.
That he got 2 or 3 hits. I was telling them much more about Ricky. And so I felt I got a call from a guy that controlled a lot of the votes, and he said, it looks good for Ricky. This was before the voting came down. He said, it really looks good. Well, I never mentioned it to Ricky because I didn't want him to, in case it didn't happen, he becomes disappointed. You got me?
Mm-hmm.
But this is what happened when you reach out to people and you get to know people. Did they say some ugly things to me? Yes, they did in the beginning. They said that we were another HBCU, that was not a good program, and we didn't play good baseball, and it was a waste of my time. And I kept saying, no, no, no. And I didn't get angry. I used your brother Obama. I did the Obama hug on him. I did not get angry with them because they had their opinion. See, a man has a right to his opinion, whether it's wrong or right.
Mm-hmm.
And all I said, I think y'all got it wrong on this guy. He's the real deal. But I kept calling. You see, I broke him down. And then once we got Ricky to get to the USA team, and I had to curse the hell out of the guy who was picking him. I'm telling you, those are the kind of things that a lot of people wouldn't go through.
The obstacles.
The obstacles, they wouldn't want to tear them down. But I had lived a life of tearing down obstacles. Mm-hmm. That was my life.
That's
you got
it.
me?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot easier for me to maneuver my way through it. And the last person I cursed that way was that guy. You know, I had to. And that was the last one. Once we got him to understand that Ricky was the real deal and got Ricky down there in Arizona at the USA team practice, the rest is history. You see, the rest was history. You see, because now they're all talking among themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is not bad. See, so this is the kind of stuff that I had to go through that Ricky or no one else at Southern wouldn't have put up with.
Yeah.
They would have, when the people talk as negative as they did, you think those people were going to pick up that phone to call people again?
And a lot of people don't like to ruffle feathers either.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to help people, you got to ruffle feathers sometimes.
Yeah, you do. Quick question I'm gonna ask you before we go to a break. When you look at talent, what would you put Ricky in terms of talented guys that have come through the SWAC? Although this is a huge honor of winning the Golden Spikes Award. Nobody has ever done it on this level. But I'm pretty sure, like you said, there have been some guys that have been good, but nobody was there to campaign for them. But for Ricky to be that one, where would you put him in terms of talent of what you've seen as a player, as a coach, when you put him in the Mount Rushmore? Is he in the Mount Rushmore of SWAC baseball players overall for you?
Well, if you had to go with Danny Goodwin, obviously Danny Goodwin was Mount Rushmore. Mm-hmm. He was taken the very first player twice. 71 out of Peoria High School, White Sox. 75, California Angels, Southern University. He was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Danny had no chance of winning
Yeah.
because the coach we played for wasn't going to speak to me or you or Danny. He didn't talk to anyone. So how
Really?
can Danny win?
Yeah.
He wouldn't even talk to us. So he had nobody to help him when he could have easily, because he was legitimate. The point I'm making is this is the kind of stuff. A classic case when we had a legitimate candidate, but he didn't have the right person leading him.
Mm-hmm.
So he got no love. I understood. See, I was like Leo Lip, the Lip DeRocha. I understood.
Mm-hmm.
You see, Willie Mays struggled. He managed Willie Mays with the Giants in 51, and Willie Mays was struggling. And Willie Mays asked him to send him down, and he said, "No, I'm not sending you down." And the next day, he put Willie in, and Willie hits a couple of home runs. And Leo the Lip saw the right rider approaching Willie, and he said, "Say hey, kid." The Say Hey Kid was born. See, he made that name. He gave Willie Mays that name. Say Hey Kid. And the rider, he had the right rider in place, and when he heard that, the Say Hey Kid was born. Isn't that beautiful how things happen? Mm-hmm. But Leo DeRocha understood. He had the right situation. I'm going to use it to get Willie Mays on the right track. After that, Willie Mays never looked back because he became the Say Hey Kid. So I understood some things. And I always used to dream about things that I could do if I got the opportunity. I used to dream about those things. And Ricky Weeks, the situation just was so right for me. Mm-hmm. It was made to order, a made to order situation. And it happened with the very first meeting between Ricky and I, May of 2000, in Orlando, Florida, outside the baseball field, 11 o'clock at night. And I said, if you work hard at Southern, you can be anything you want. Well, he gave me the answer. I want to be good and I'm going to work hard. That's all I needed to hear. I had the right guy. I had talented guys, but I didn't have the one who made the statement, I want to be good and I'm going to work hard. When you get that combination, man, you can go in the kitchen and start cooking.
I like how you ended that one there. All right, let's get ready to take a break. We'll come back with more of Chopping It Up with Cador, all right? Catch y'all in a minute.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of African Safe & Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Africa for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Take your fun full throttle with a single touch. There are places to fly high, swing low, or make the old bell ring. Your targets are in sight. Better your game by playing ball of almost every variety. Need to catch your breath? There's a place for that too. Countless ways to play beyond the swing sets. Break, we're more than a playground.
It is time to trade in your isolation for celebration, to break out and get away. And at Baton Rouge Metro Airport, you'll get away a lot quicker. BTR is way closer, more convenient, with easy parking, check-in that's a breeze, and non-stops and short hops to anywhere you want to go. So get back to your life and be quick about it. Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time. FlyBTR.com.
Have a passion? We've got the place. Gear up for where the rubber meets the mud. or stir up memories of a lifetime. Reach new heights, gravitate towards something out of this world, even travel back in time. You might like a little drama in your life, or get in touch with your inner nature lover. Release some pent-up energy while you're at it. There's plenty to do beyond the swing sets. BRAC, we're more than a playground.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
It is time to trade in your isolation for celebration, to break out and get away. And at Baton Rouge Metro Airport, you'll get away a lot quicker. BTR is way closer, more convenient, with easy parking, check-in that's a breeze, and non-stops and short hops to anywhere you want to go. So get back to your life and be quick about it. Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time. FlyBTR.com.
With over 60 years of combined experience, Kathy Sherburne and Anna Barnett bring a wealth of knowledge and excitement to the framing industry. Keeping strong to the Louisiana culture, Acadian Frame and Art has numerous local artists and sports team memorabilia for their customers to choose from. Whether you're creating a gallery-like setting in your office or simply looking for some fun art for your kids' playroom, Acadian Frame and Art is your one-stop picture framing spot. Call 225-927-6129 or go to www.acadianframe.com.
Good. There we go. Had to get the headphones on. Got a special guest. Welcome back with Chopping It Up with Cador. I'm Perry White. He's Roger Cador. If you hear my voice, I mean you tuned in for a good show today. I want you to hit that subscribe button right there underneath the video. Get your notification every time we go live, so you can check out what Coach Roger Cador and myself talking about each and every week. It is Monday, the beginning of the week. We getting things rocking and rolling. See if we can get our guest on, Bob Kendrick. There you go. Bob, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. I hope you hear me.
Yeah, we hear you.
I hear you, Bob. Oh, Bob. Oh, that hat you had on Saturday. Oh, if I could have seen you. Oh, you put John French and Fuku to shame. You remember John French and Fuku?
Oh, yeah.
You put him to shame. These guys don't know who we're talking about. They're too young.
You know, Coach, for everybody out there that don't know who Bob Kendrick is, let them know who he is.
Well, he's the president of the Negro League Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. And he's an energy guy, does a lot of things in a lot of places, always promoting the game of baseball at every level, and we are fortunate to have you, Bob. And on Black History Month, to be able to have you to talk a little about some of the things that's going on with the museum and some of the things you hope to have going on in the future.
Yeah, no, Coach. Great to see you there in New Orleans, Dawson, HBCU Club. That was so much fun. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk to we're so excited about it. And you've been a museum for it. You knew Don Mock in this seat, one of the great Buckle, who was their friend, and for them. So they passed me, and I am just trying to build upon what they and grow it. And hopefully, all the people will fall in love of the Negro Leagues. Music story that we met. And I tell people, it's built upon, you won't let me play things. Okay, I'll create a league.
Hey Bob,
and
we may have to get. Do you have headphones? You might have to use your speaker for with your headphones because you're kind of going in and out.
Okay, because I got headphones on, like we can't hear each other. But let me try it again.
Yeah, if you got your headphones, let's try it in. That way we can get probably a better sound to get from, because he's going in and out. This is a great interview, so we want to make sure we get Bob to the fullest. And Bob Kendrick of the Negro League Museum up in Kansas City, as we wait on him to get himself together. Coach, man, I know you've been trying to get this interview together for a while, and it's finally good to get him on.
It is, because he's got a busy schedule, and trying to get him in on Black History Month is really even more of a challenge. And he's been on.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh yeah. We got you.
Okay.
Coach over here, he praising you. I told him, I know we've been trying to get you. I know. Hey, listen, Bob is the first person of our guests when he just never answered my call. I said, you know what, I'm not Roger Cador. I normally can get everybody else, and I always have a funny story with everybody, because it is normally the time when I call. So this is my first time being able to hear Bob's voice. So, you know, I'm excited now. Bob, let's jump right into it, man. Give us some history in terms of the Negro League Museum up in Kansas City for a lot of people who don't understand what that is.
Started in a one-room office right across the street from where my office is now. And the office had a conference room table, and the guys like Buck O'Neil and other local Negro Leaguers literally took turns paying the monthly rent to keep the office open. And as I like to say, our hopes and dreams of one day building a facility that would pay rightful tribute to the Negro Leagues. Man, they took turns. I mean, can you think about that? They passed the hat to pay the monthly rent. And that's how we got started. And we've since grown from that one-room office to now be recognized as America's National Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, as deemed and designated so by the United States Congress in 2006. So it's been an amazing journey for a little museum that no one gave any chance of succeeding.
You know, I'm curious to know about some history of the Negro League, because, you know, as a young man, you read about it, you heard about it, but for you who know, I guess you're kind of like the gatekeeper of the history of the stories that's told. Give us some stories, some breakdown for a lot of people out there who may not have known in terms of the history of the Negro League and the importance of what it was.
Well, the leagues were formed right here in Kansas City in 1920. And amazingly, they would operate for 40 years, from 1920 until 1960. And as you can both imagine, that surprises a lot of people, because most baseball fans relate the fact that Jackie Robinson would break Major League Baseball's color barrier in 1947. But 13 years after Jackie breaks the color barrier, the Negro Leagues are still operating, and operating with a great deal of success. But it's also surprising for fans that it took Major League Baseball 12 years before every Major League team had at least one black baseball player. The Boston Red Sox were the last team to integrate when they signed a guy by the name of Elijah Pumpsy Green. And that would complete the integration cycle. And by 1960, the Negro League ceased operations. But please understand that the talent in the Negro Leagues wouldn't take a backseat to any league. We're talking about some of the baddest brothers and sisters to ever play this game. You know, they could play. They could play, and I think there's still this kind of misperception or conception that the talent in the Negro Leagues was some way inferior to the talent in the Major Leagues. But I'm here to tell you, no, it wasn't.
Well, I know it wasn't. I would think Chet Brewer told us about it pretty good. About that one arm, the one we could talk about, the one arm outfielder. We can't. You know, in the 30s, they played a one arm outfielder. And we know that something was wrong with that when they had all of these talented brothers. You got? And Chet said the only thing he could do is scratch himself on the backside in the same place every time.
Well, you know, guys, one of the little known facts about the Negro Leagues is that they played countless exhibition games against Major League teams or Major League All-Star teams. So you would have the Negro League teams or those Black All-Star teams playing against each other in those exhibition games, and the records bear out that the Negro League or the Black All-Star teams won almost 75% of their head-to-head matchups. So there was never any doubt about their ability to play in the Major Leagues. It was just simply the social conditions of our time and fear that kept them out of the Major Leagues. And I preface the word fear, Coach, because I don't think the superstar major leaguer was concerned about integration. It was that average major leaguer that was concerned about integration. Because if you allow both this black and brown talent in, I might lose my job. So when Jackie Robinson came up, he took someone's job.
Let me ask you this.
And now the other guys are looking over their shoulder wondering, am I next?
Let me ask you this in terms of the history. You know,
yes, sir.
A lot of these guys that played in the Negro League of that time probably should have been maybe, as we say, in the MLB Hall of Fame. But unfortunately for a lot of these guys, and that's if you're going to integrate it, but unfortunately a lot of the stats, a lot of the history probably was not well kept or has kind of gotten lost. Talk about that. Some of the things that we've lost, but some of the things we've been able to salvage to be able to keep on with this legacy.
Yeah, no, the statistics, as you mentioned, so many of them were seemingly lost to time. But I have to tip my cap to all the historians and researchers who have stayed steadfast in digging and pulling out this information so that it could be structured in a way that led us to the announcement in 2020 of Major League Baseball's recognition of the Negro Leagues as a major league and its willingness to roll in the statistics of the Negro Leagues into the record books of Major League Baseball.
The one thing I like, you and I this past weekend got to talk about Buck O'Neil and Ken Burns when he did the special. Our history is based upon aura to a large extent, not written, but aura. And Ken Burns did a wonderful job of letting Buck tell a story. Tell the people about it, Bob.
That's when America fell in love with Buck O'Neil, Coach. He had been a big star in the Negro Leagues, but he became an even bigger star at age 82 when that documentary came out. And as I tell folks, he here was this very charming, gentle man who was telling these wonderful stories about baseball to baseball fans that they had never heard before. And he was doing it with a twinkle in his eye and a smile that lit up the screen. And America fell in love with Buck O'Neil. As I mentioned, he was 82 years old at that time. And fellas, I'll never forget the headline of the Kansas City Star after the initial episode that featured Buck said that a star was born at 82.
At 82. Yeah.
and Coach Buck said, I've been telling these stories for 40 years and no one ever listened. And Ken Burns gave him a platform and people listened. And they really haven't stopped listening ever since.
And I love it. I'll look at it 20 times. I still love it, you know. And it's like
and what you said is so true.
Yes.
Because what Ken did was he told Buck, said, Buck, I wasn't there. You tell the story the way you remember the story. Whereas most folks would try to steal the story the way that they thought it was. Ken allowed Buck to tell the story so it had a very authentic voice.
And it certainly did.
You know, this is a story that Coach and I were talking about the Negro League last week. And, you know, I wasn't for sure of the time frame, as you said, for 40 years. So I asked Coach, I was saying, you know, was it any Negro League guys that you liked, that you watched when you were growing up? And I asked him, did he go to a game? And he looked at me, he gave me the craziest look. He was like, how old do you think I am? He said, how old do you think I am? I mean, he gave me just the meanest look, like, you gonna really ask me? I was like, well, I didn't know, Coach.
I was 8 years old when it ended.
Yeah, you know, in my head, I just feel like Coach was back then. He was hanging out, going to the games, you know. But he looked at me like, how old do you think I am? I was like, my bad.
I was going to games, but it was neighborhood games where we played against different neighborhoods, you got me? We were just a small place, so we had no Negro League. But we call them the Sugarcane League, because in the area where I came up, sugarcane was king after cotton. So, you know, that's what, but no, I wasn't in the big city or near a big city where they played.
Did they create a movie? I want to say that. I'm thinking back in the day, they had Richard Pryor. I believe they had
Bingo Long.
Huh?
Bingo Long. Yes. That was not real. Buck told me, he said, that's a lot of bull. That ain't real.
Oh, I mean, just for me, it's just I can remember that.
And really, guys, it's interesting because the film that you're both referencing is called Bingo Long, Traveling All-Stars, and Motor Kings. And it was produced by Barry Gordy and Motown. And so Coach is right. The book was based on a fictional novel. So it was never intended to be an accurate portrayal of the Negro Leagues. But it was really the first cinematic reference that people had seen of the Negro Leagues. And they took it for the gospel.
Yeah, because you couldn't have told me any different.
So the Negro League players, they hated the film. They did. They hated the film. But the film is very important. Number one, it starred a tremendous black cast. And you mentioned Richard Pryor,
Billy D. Williams,
James Earl Jones, and Billy D. Williams. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
and here's the side story on this. In the book, Billy D. Williams' character is actually the catcher. But Billy D. Williams, guys, was just coming off the blockbuster film, Lady Sings the Blues.
Yes.
And all the women had fallen in love with Billy D. Williams. So there was no way they were going to cast Billy D. Williams and put him in a catcher's mask.
Couldn't see him.
For 3/4 of the film.
That's right.
So they switched the role and made Billy D. Williams' character the pitcher,
Yes.
and put James Earl Jones
The catcher.
behind the catcher's mask. And so I guess they say, well, James, you got a great voice, but you ain't never look at.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
See, interesting. I knew that, huh? Y'all didn't think the Young Buck. I watched them. I thought that movie, for me, and I guess like you said, for a lot of people, I thought it was a depiction, a true depiction of what that was. I didn't know any different, and there's nothing out that, most people typically won't know to be able to tell you different. So I didn't know. That's interesting to know.
Well, and there were some snippets that I think related back to Negro League characters. So Billy D. Williams' character mimics Satchel Paige. James Earl Jones embodies the spirit of Josh Gibson. The woman owner, was kind of built off of Effa Manley, who owned the Newark Eagles. So, you had those kinds of references, and you had two guys from the Indianapolis Clowns that were on set. And so they were relating the story the way they remembered. So the Clowns would do some of those kinds of things. But by and large, the guys in the Negro Leagues, they didn't do all that parading into town and that kind of thing. So,
I thought they was like the Harlem Globetrotters when they came to town.
and the Indianapolis Clowns were absolutely like the Globetrotters. You know why?
Huh.
Because they were owned and promoted by Abe Saperstein and Sidney Pollack, who also were affiliated with the Harlem Globetrotters.
There you go. What beautiful history. For people, this is as great as it gets because a lot of people aren't aware of this kind of stuff. You see, and this is why our history is important. That we be able to tell a story or have a museum. You could take young people to it. See what those people who came before them did, so their life could be so much better. I know you were trying to reference about, and we had problem hearing you. You were breaking up about the fact that the Negro League started not out of rebellion, out of necessity, because they couldn't go play anywhere else. They weren't being a rebel. They just did it out of necessity. So I want you to go back and talk about it because people didn't hear because you were breaking up at that point.
We needed a forum where black and brown players coach could showcase their world-class baseball abilities. So this league emerged, as I like to say, out of one basic, simple principle. You won't let me play with you. I'll just create a league of my own. They created the Negro Leagues here in Kansas City on February 13, 1920. The legendary Andrew Rube Foster will lead a group of 8 independent black baseball team owners into a meeting held at the Paseo YMCA, right around the corner from where the museum operates. And when they walked out on that meeting on February 13, 1920, they had signed the documents to start the Negro National League, the first successful organized black baseball league. And fellas, when Rube Foster established his newly formed Negro Leagues, he stood there at the Paseo YMCA and he boldly proclaimed, "We are the ship, all else is the sea." he was serving notice that a new player had arrived on the scene to be reckoned with. And so I guess you could say that it was their Declaration of Independence.
I would say it was. And it proved to be exact because of, we know Dr. King did a lot to help with race relations. But it was the Negro League that was first out there.
Yes.
Leading the way. Can you elaborate on that a little?
There is no question about that, Coach. We make the bold assertion here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum that Jackie Robinson's breaking of Major League Baseball's color barrier wasn't just a part of the civil rights movement. It was the beginning of the civil rights movement. Jackie Robinson is handpicked from the great Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro Leagues to be the chosen one. And think about this. When he joins Brooklyn in 1947, this is before those more noted civil rights occurrences. So this is before Brown versus the Board of Education. This is before Rosa Parks' refusal to move to the back of the bus. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as Buck O'Neill would so eloquently say, was merely a sophomore at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, when Jackie signed his contract to play in the Dodgers organization. President Harry S. Truman, right up the road from me in Independence, Missouri, would not integrate the armed forces until a year after Jackie. So for all intents and purposes, this is what started the ball of social progress rolling in our country. And it happens because of the Negro Leagues. And of course, it was the great city of Kansas City that gave America arguably its greatest hero in Jackie Robinson.
And let me tell you, I love Kansas City. First of all, because the barbecue. Kansas City is one of my favorite places. I rock Kansas City Chiefs stuff, Coach. I tell you, I'm in here all the. You a Chiefs fan?
Oh, heck yeah.
Shout out to the Super Bowl champs, man. And, I come to Kansas City a lot, so the next time I come, I'm going to have to check you out, man. I got some friends that live out in Overland Park, Kansas, on that side.
Yes,
And man, I'm gonna definitely have to check you out. One of my boys, his dad did a lot of work up that way. So now that I know about this, I'm definitely coming. And not only for myself, but for anybody that's out there, if they visit Kansas City, where can they find you guys?
We're located at 1616 East 18th Street in historic 18th and Vine, the historic Jazz District.
Do you have any social media presence, any websites for anybody out there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can follow the museum on the World Wide Web at NLBM.com, on Twitter at NLB Museum KC, and the same username for Instagram. And you can keep up with old Bob on Instagram at NLBM Prez, PREZ, and the same username on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check you out when I come up there, man, and we gotta go eat some good barbecue somewhere,
Hey, you got it, deal.
The greatest dapper dresser I know.
So make sure you reach out when you come.
The greatest dapper dresser I know. Oh, Bob, Buck could see you now. I've got a picture. I have a picture of Buck, Roy White, Frank White, Charlie Pryor, Lasada, and Lou Brock. The last time when they had when Coors did the Negro League thing, I was there that year. I think it was 90-something.
That picture is epic.
It's epic. And bro, Buck is in his full mink coat. He has his full mink coat on.
Hey, Bob, I gotta ask a question real quick before you get ready to get off from us. What is apparel like with Negro? Because these days everybody like throwback stuff. You want to wear some things that's retro. What is Negro League apparel like? Is that something that's out there that could be profitable?
Oh yeah, no, it's a big part of our business operations. We have our own licensing program, and so we have a number of licensees who are making some fire product. And so you can go online to nlbm.com to our online store. But if you are near a lid store in your area, you'll find Negro merchandise in lids and several other national retailers.
Yeah, I was curious to know that because I know my generation, we like the retro stuff. We like to wear the throwback stuff. So, I pull up one day with one of my old school Negro League jerseys, man. They gonna like, where you get that from? I'm gonna have to refer them to them. Y'all gotta holler at my man Bob.
Tell him to holler at me. We'll get them hooked up.
Yes, sir. I got you. Bob, man, we want to thank you for coming on this morning. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you come on and talk to us about some rich history, especially as we get ready to put a stamp on Black History Month and be able to get this type of history and this knowledge. And to be able to put it out there for people to hear, because I don't think a lot of people may not have never heard it, or they just simply may not have understood the importance of what the Negro League meant and how much more it went beyond baseball. So this was truly an honor to be able to hear that story.
Well, you are absolutely right, because this story is so much bigger than the game of baseball. Baseball is merely a premise for a far more grandiose story. So really, for us, we almost de-emphasize the baseball players to focus on what the Negro Leagues meant off the field. Yeah, so you are absolutely right.
We want to get you back on here and keep the conversation going, man, and have some more time to chop it up with you.
Anytime.
All right.
Bob, thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you down the road soon, okay?
Okay, guys.
All right.
All right, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thank you. All right, that was our guy, Bob Kendrick, up there at the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. Coach, thank you for getting Bob on this morning. I think we've reached our time. 11 o'clock.
I mean, that was a really, I fought hard to get him on during Black History Month because it's so important for people who have an interest to know the history, because you can't go read about it because a lot of our history is oral and not written.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have someone like him who could tell the story, and you give him the microphone and let him talk.
There you go. Hey, if you guys hear me, in this microphone, hit that subscribe button so you be able to get the notification every time we go live. We'll be back next week on Monday, Lord willing, and be right here, be able to talk to you guys with even more information. It is to be March is next time, which this year is moving on through. We already headed to the third month of the year. So as always, we want to thank you guys for tuning in and checking us out. We enjoy to have your support. Always go back and subscribe. You can watch any of the previous videos, interviews that we had before. You can follow him, Roger Cador, on Instagram as well as Facebook. You can follow me, Perry White, on Facebook. And, Coach, get us up out of here.